What would you do if your father forced you into a marriage, not with a man, not with a prince, not even with a human being, but with a dog? A billionaire's cursed son trapped inside the body of a beast. This is the chilling story of Ada, the innocent village girl who discovered that destiny can be stranger, darker, and more terrifying than any nightmare. Stay with me to the very end, like and subscribe, because what happened on our wedding night will leave you speechless. Ada's story began on an ordinary evening. The sun was going down, painting the sky in orange and gold. Inside their small family parlor, her father sat glued to the television, while Ada quietly swept the floor, humming softly. But then, the news bulletin flashed across the screen: billionaire Chief Okonkwo's family still plagued by the mysterious curse. Ada stopped sweeping, curious. She glanced at her father. His face had gone pale, his jaw clenched tight. Slowly, he turned and looked at her in a way she had never seen before. In that moment, Ada's heart sank. Something was wrong. Something very wrong. The next morning, Ada's father summoned her and her mother. He stood in the center of the compound like a man preparing for war. His words fell heavy: "Ada, you will be married by the end of this week." Ada blinked, confused. Married? She wasn't ready, she wasn't even in love. Her voice shook as she asked, "But to who?" He didn't answer. He simply said, "This marriage will save us all." Her mother tried to intervene, pleading, but he silenced her with a glare. Ada felt trapped, powerless. She wanted to scream, but fear knotted her throat. The wedding day arrived. The drums echoed through the village, women orated, and men gathered in excitement. Ada sat trembling in a bright red wrapper, her hair adorned with beads. She prayed silently, hoping her suitor would be kind. But when the palace gates opened, silence swallowed the crowd. A massive black dog, wearing a golden chain, walked in with bodyguards on each side. Gasps filled the air. Ada's blood turned cold. This wasn't a joke, the dog was her husband-to-be. The whisper started, "That's Chief Okonkwo's son, the cursed billionaire heir." Ada's world spun. She wanted to faint, but her father grabbed her hand and dragged her forward. That night, Ada sat in her new husband's mansion, alone with the beast. The walls glittered with wealth, gold chairs, marble floors, chandeliers, but none of it mattered. She sat trembling, tears rolling down her face. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. Before her eyes, the dog began to twist, crack, and transform. In seconds, he was no longer a beast but a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes burning with both pain and desire. Ada gasped and staggered back. The man stepped closer and whispered, "You are mine now, Ada. Only your purity can set me free. Until then, you belong to me." She realized this wasn't just marriage. It was a curse, a trap, and a destiny she never chose. Imagine being Ada. Would you run? Would you fight? Or would you stay and try to break the curse of the billionaire dog? This story is only the beginning, and what Ada discovers next will shake her entire world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Days turned into weeks, and Ada's life became a prison of gold. By day, she lived with a terrifying dog, followed by bodyguards who ensured she never escaped. By night, the beast transformed into Richard, the billionaire's son trapped by a curse. At first, Ada refused to speak to him. She turned away, slept on the edge of the bed, and cried into her pillow. But slowly, she began to notice something: his sadness. Beneath his coldness was a man broken, carrying secrets that weighed like chains. One night, Richard whispered, "Ada, do you know why your father chose you? Do you even know who you are?" She shook her head, confused. His eyes darkened. "You're not really his daughter." Ada's heart stopped. Richard told her everything. Years ago, her parents had no children. In desperation, her mother visited a strange shrine, where a priestess gave her a baby wrapped in white cloth. That baby was Ada. She was never truly theirs. And the prophecy was clear: Ada was the only one who could break the curse of the billionaire dog. Tears rolled down her face as memories flashed, her father's coldness, her mother's hidden sadness, the way villagers sometimes whispered when she passed. Everything made sense now. She felt betrayed, used, and unwanted. But the worst pain of all was knowing her father had traded her life just to escape a curse. Despite her anger, Ada began to see Richard differently. Each midnight when he turned human, he treated her with surprising tenderness. He told her about his curse, that he was cursed by a rival who wanted his father's fortune. He confessed that though he hated forcing her into this marriage, he was drawn to her. His words softened her heart. But in the day, when he was only a beast, Ada felt trapped again. She lived between two worlds, a nightmare in the sunlight and a forbidden love in the midnight hour. Yet, one question tortured her: could she truly love a man who was half beast? Just as Ada's heart began to soften, her world collapsed again. She discovered a letter hidden in her father's box. In it, the truth was written in blood-red ink: her father had sold her to Chief Okonkwo in exchange for wealth, land, and protection. It wasn't destiny, it was greed. Ada fell to the floor, clutching the letter, her body shaking with rage and heartbreak. She realized her life was nothing but a transaction, and the people she thought loved her had betrayed her from the very beginning. In that moment, Ada swore that if she had to live with a curse, she would not live as a slave. She would fight. Ada's story is only just beginning. She now knows she was never her father's child. She knows her life was sold to a billionaire's curse. But what will she do next? Submit, escape, or fight to break the chains of destiny? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story is about to explode with betrayal, revenge, and shocking secrets. Ada no longer cried. Her tears had dried into fire. Each morning, she served her father food without looking at him, hiding her hatred deep in her chest. Each night, she lay beside Richard, the man trapped in a beast, her mind racing. She knew the truth now: her life had been sold for wealth. But Ada was not weak. In her heart, she swore that the same hands that betrayed her would one day tremble before her. She started watching carefully, listening in silence, learning the secrets of both her father and Richard's family. If they thought she would stay a pawn in their cursed game, they were wrong. One night, Richard revealed another secret. There was a way to break the curse, but it came with a heavy price. The prophecy said, the curse will break only when the bride sheds blood for love, and betrays the one who betrayed her. Ada's heart pounded. What did that mean? Would she have to kill her own father? Or Richard himself? The thought haunted her. Yet, she could not ignore the strange pull she felt toward Richard. In the midnight hours, when he was human, his gentleness made her heart ache. But by day, when he was a beast, she recoiled in fear. Torn between love and horror, Ada knew one thing: the prophecy demanded sacrifice. Meanwhile, Ada's father grew more arrogant. With the riches Chief Okonkwo had given him, he strutted through the village in expensive wrappers and gold rings. Villagers praised him, but behind closed doors, he was still a fearful man. He visited the shrine again, begging the priestess to protect his wealth. But the priestess laughed in his face. You cannot cheat destiny. The girl you sold is the key, and the blood of betrayal is already waiting. Shaken, her father left, but Ada overheard everything. Her hands trembled with rage. The man who raised her was no father, he was her first enemy. That night, Ada couldn't sleep. The prophecy echoed in her head: the curse will break when the bride sheds blood for love, and betrays the one who betrayed her. She realized the meaning. To free herself and Richard, she would have to betray her father, the man who sold her life. As the moonlight poured through the window, Ada stood with trembling hands, holding a knife. Tears rolled down her face. She wasn't just a victim anymore, she was the prophecy. And before dawn, someone's blood would spill. Ada now holds the knife, the prophecy burning in her heart. Will she strike her greedy father and break the curse? Or will destiny twist once again, turning her into the very monster she fears? The night air was thick with silence as Ada crept into her father's hut. Her heart thundered like a drum inside her chest. In her hand, the knife gleamed under the weak flame of a lantern. She found him asleep, his chest rising and falling, his fingers still clutching a bag of money he had received from Chief Okonkwo. For a moment, Ada froze. Memories of childhood flashed, how he had carried her on his back, how he once laughed with her under the mango tree. But then, like a dagger, the truth stabbed her again, he had never been her father. He had traded her life like a goat in the market. A tear slid down her cheek as she raised the knife. With one scream of rage and pain, Ada struck. Blood spilled. The prophecy had begun. As her father gasped his last breath, thunder roared across the sky. The ground shook violently. In the mansion miles away, Richard, who was in his beast form, convulsed and cried out in pain. His body twisted, bones cracking, for burning away. For the first time in years, he remained fully human even as the sun began to rise. The curse had broken. Guards fell to their knees, worshipping him as their master returned. But Richard didn't smile. His first thought was Ada. He rushed back to the village, his heart pounding. Richard arrived to find Ada covered in blood, the knife still in her hand, her body shaking with shock. He pulled her close, whispering, "It's over. You freed me." But then, the priestess appeared in the doorway, her eyes glowing. She laughed coldly. "Fools! The curse is not broken, it has only shifted." Ada and Richard froze. The priestess lifted her staff and pointed at Ada. "When the bride sheds blood, she becomes the beast. She will carry the curse now." Before Ada could scream, her body twisted in agony. Her bones cracked, her skin stretched, her eyes glowed. Before Richard's eyes, Ada transformed into a giant beast, her cries echoing through the night. The villagers woke to chaos. Some ran, screaming that the devil had risen. Others fell to the ground, begging the gods for mercy. Richard fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he watched the woman he loved become the very thing that had haunted him for years. Ada, now trapped in the form of a beast, roared in pain, her claws digging into the earth. In her heart, she was still Ada, still human, still broken, but the curse had claimed her body. The prophecy had played its cruel trick. She had freed Richard, but she had lost herself. Ada thought she was freeing herself. She thought she was breaking a curse. But instead, she became the curse. Will Richard fight to save her, or will he abandon her now that he is free? And can Ada ever return to her human form, or is she doomed to remain the monster bride forever? Richard stood frozen, staring at Ada in her monstrous form. The villagers screamed, scattering into the night, some clutching their children, others diving into the bushes. Yet Richard could not move. The woman who had freed him, who had shed blood for him, was now cast in his place. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Ada, it should have been me." The priestess laughed, her staff glowing with power. "The curse never breaks, it only transfers. She is now the beast, and you, Richard, are free to enjoy your riches." Richard's guards bowed to him, hailing him as master. But inside his heart, freedom tasted like poison. The beast growled, but her eyes, oh, her eyes, still held Ada's soul. She stared at Richard, tears of fire burning in her monstrous gaze. Slowly, she lowered her claws and whimpered like a wounded child. In that moment, Richard's heart shattered. He stepped forward, ignoring the villagers' warnings. "I don't care about the curse, Ada. I don't care about wealth. I care about you." His voice cracked as he pressed his forehead against her beastly form. For a heartbeat, the growling stopped. Deep inside, Ada's human heart fought to break free. The priestess hissed, "Foolish boy. To embrace her is to embrace death." But Richard didn't let go. The priestess raised her staff to strike, but Richard pulled a dagger from his robe and pointed it at his own chest. "If her curse cannot end, then I will share it," he shouted. Before the priestess could stop him, he plunged the blade into his heart. Blood spilled, staining Ada's claws. The beast roared in agony, her cry shaking the heavens. Thunder ripped the skies apart. Suddenly, a blinding light enveloped them both. When it cleared, Richard and Ada lay side by side, human again, holding hands. The curse had shattered forever, not by betrayal, but by sacrifice. The villagers gathered slowly, whispering in awe. The priestess vanished into smoke, her power broken. Richard, weak and pale, held Ada's hand, whispering, "I'd rather die free with you than live cursed without you." Ada sobbed, clutching him. But instead of dying, Richard's wound began to heal. The gods had accepted his sacrifice and given them both a second chance. From that day, Richard and Ada lived not as beast and bride, but as husband and wife. The villagers told their tale for generations, how a poor village girl, sold by her greedy father, became the woman who broke the curse of the billionaire dog. And so, viewers, the prophecy twisted, destiny fought, and love triumphed. Ada was betrayed, cursed, and broken, but in the end, her courage and Richard's sacrifice rewrote their fate. This is the story of the girl who was married to a billionaire dog, but became the woman who broke his chains. What do you think? Was Ada's ending fair? Or should she have walked away and left Richard to his curse? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking stories.